Hello learners, my name is Ms. Nikita Nareshwar Samant, Assistant Professor at Ganpat Parsekar College of Education. I welcome you for Module 3, that is Significance of Research, Objectives of Research and Hypothesis of Research. Okay, let's see significance of research in geography. It helps to discover causes and effect relationship between social problems. It gives answer to unsolved problems. It contributes to development of new knowledge, that is, research provides new information, ideas and theories that can expand our understanding of particular subject or phenomena. It supports decision making and policy development. So research provide evidence-based solutions to complex problems and help decision makers develop effective policies and practices. It improves practice and processes. Now, research can identify new opportunities for innovations and help improve particles and practice and process in various fields such as healthcare, education, businesses, etc. It helps to solve real-world problems. Research provides insight into the causes and factors that contribute to social, economic, and environmental problems and help identify effective solutions. It helps to promote economic growth and development. Research can lead to the development of new technologies and products that can create jobs and stimulate economic growth. It enhances the quality of life. Research can help improve the quality of life for individuals and communities by providing evidence-based solutions to healthcare, education and social issues. Now let's see what is research objectives. Research objectives describe what your research is trying to achieve and explain why you are pursuing it. This summarizes the approach and purpose of your project and help to focus on the research. Objectives should appear in the introduction of your research paper. At the end of problem statement, they should be like establish the scope and depth of your project. It should contribute to the research design and it indicate how the following project will contribute to the existing knowledge. Now let's see what is research objectives. Research objectives are to describe what your research project aims to achieve. They should guide the researcher at every step of the research processes. That is including how to collect data, build the argument and develop the conclusion. Research objective may involve to some degree as your research progresses, but they should always line up with the research carried out and the actual content of the research paper. For example, to assess the relationship between sedentary habits and muscular atrophy among the participants. To determine the impact of dietary factor, particularly protein consumption on the muscular health of the participants. To determine the effect of physical activity on the participants' muscular health. Now let's see the types of research objectives. There are various types of research objectives. For example, exploratory, explanatory, comparative, predictive, normative, qualitative, quantitative, longitudinal, cross-section and descriptive. Now let's see one by one. Descriptive type of objectives. These objectives aim to provide a detailed and accurate description of a phenomenon, event or subject. They focus on answering questions about what, who, where and when. For example, to describe the characteristics of rare species of flower. Second type is exploratory objectives. These objectives are used when researchers seek to gain a better understanding of a topic, especially when there is limited existing knowledge. They often provide preliminary investigation. For example, to explore the possible factor impacting consumer liking towards sustainable products. Next is explanatory objectives. Explanatory objectives are designed to identify the relationship between variables and explain the causes or reason behind certain phenomena. For example, to insert the causal relationship between smoking habits and development of lung cancer. Next is comparative objectives. These objectives involve comparing two or more variables. It could be group or situation to identify similarities, differences, patterns or trends. For example, to compare the performance of standard 5th to standard 10th. Next is predictive objectives. Predictive objectives aim to forecast or predict future outcomes or trend based on existing data or pattern. For example, to predict the outcome of deforestation for coming years. Next is normative objectives. Normative objectives involves establishing standard guidelines or recommendation for a specific area of study. For example, to develop specific ethical guidelines for the responsible use of technology in school. Qualitative objectives. Qualitative objectives are used in qualitative research to explore and understand experiences, perception and behavior in them. For example, to reveal the correlation between study time and students' academic performances. Next, quantitative objective. Objectives involve collection and analysis of numerical data to measure and quantify specific phenomena. For example, to understand the population change over the period of 10 years. Next, longitudinal objective. These objectives involve studying the same subject or entities over an extended period to track changes or development. For example, to understand the climate change over a period of time. Next is cross-section objectives. Cross-section objectives involves the study of sample at a single point in time to gather data about a population's characteristics or attitude. For example, to assess the relationship between different variables in population at a specific point of time. Now, why are research objectives important? First, to establish the scope and depth of the project. It helps you to avoid unnecessary research. Basically, it also means that research methods and conclusions are easy to evaluate. Second, to contribute the research design. When you know what your objectives are, you are clear about the idea what methods are most appropriate for your research. Next, to indicate how the particular project will contribute to the extent of research. They allow you to display your knowledge of up-to-date research, employ or build on current research method and attempt to contribute to the recent debates. How to write research aims and objectives. Step 1. Decide on a general aims. Your research aim should reflect your research problem and should be relatively broader. Step 2. Decide on specific objectives. Break down your aims into a limited number of steps that will help to resolve your research problem. Step 3. Formulate your aims and objectives. Once you establish your research aims and objectives, you need to explain them clearly and consciously to the readers. Your research objectives should be SMART. SMART in terms of specific. Your research needs to be clearly defined in order to get useful result. M stands for measurable. Know how you will measure whether your objectives have been achieved. A stands for achievable. Your objectives may be challenging, but they should be achievable. R stands for relevant. Make sure that they directly address the research problem you want to work on and that they contribute to the current state of the research in your field. T stands for the time-based. Set clear deadlines for objectives to ensure that project stays on track. Now let's see the next topic, that is hypothesis. Now what is hypothesis? A hypothesis is an assumption that is made based on some evidences. It is an initial point of any investigation that converts the research question into predictions. It includes components like variables, population, and the relationship between the variables. A research hypothesis is used to test the relationship between two or more variables. Next, characteristics of the hypothesis. The hypothesis should be clear. If the hypothesis is a relational hypothesis, then it should be stating the relationship between the variables. The hypothesis must be specific and should have scope of conducting more tests. The way of explanation of a hypothesis must be very simple. Now let's see the types of hypothesis. There are various types of hypothesis. For example, simple hypothesis, complex hypothesis, directional hypothesis, non-directional hypothesis, null hypothesis, associative hypothesis, and causal hypothesis. Example of hypothesis: consumption of unhealthy food every day leads to obesity is an example of simple hypothesis. periwinkles have the same number of petals is an example of null hypothesis. Let's see the functions of hypothesis. Hypotheses help in making an observation and functions of hypothesis. Hypotheses help in making an observation and experiments possible. It helps the starting point of the investigation. Hypotheses help in verifying the observation. It helps to inquiries in the right direction. Conclusion. In this model, you have learned about the significance of research in geography. The process of research that involves stating the objectives, understanding types and importance of research objectives, formulating hypotheses, characteristics and functions of hypothesis. These are the references.